let's deal with the response from Goobies to your letter, and that you canvass at paragraph 47 of your statement.
So, on the 26th of June, I then received the email from this company with the email address of info@goobies85.co.za, and the electronic mail was signed off by Kelvin Mashlangu. But there's then, together with this letter, which I've just indicated here, they've also attached a lot of attachments. The one is they sent my own letter back to me. They've sent me the original award letter that they were issued to them in 2022. They've sent a report through to me of their services rendered, and then they attached a file called deployment. And they stated that they had written instruction to deploy, which none of us in the department knew they had. I then looked at this on the 26th. I looked at this deployment list only, and I went through this list, and I think it's 43 pages of deployments that was done. It's all these sites, the total at the end of the day, the 43 sites. There's an individual page for every deployment. I scanned through that, and I noticed that the deployments were done by Inspector Piri, who did the deployments. So I scanned in the beginning a few, and then right at the end again, and I saw it's Inspector Piri that deployed these sites. And
Commissioner Spees, apologies for interrupting you. Can we, so that we can follow, and the Commission can also have a proper understanding, can you go to page 382 on the same file, 2 of 4? Can you confirm that this document is part of, are you there?
yes,
Can you confirm that this document is part of the annexures that you received from Goobies 85 Solutions when they responded to your, what we call a stoppage letter?
correct. This, from 382 to 424, is the list of letters that was in the electronic PDF file stated deployment of officers, of guards. And this is the, which I quickly scanned through, and I saw that it was signed off at the bottom. You can see that for any inquiries on this matter, please contact Lebogang Piri. And then there's a signature, and it's a Mr. A.L. Piri. And then next to it is PIN number and Inspector Piri. So I scanned through this right up to the end, and initially I noted that everything is, according to me, signed by Mr. Piri. So my initial thought was everything was Mr. Piri. And I must state that this page 8, I say page 18, but 18 in the report. Two of the files is not Mr. Piri, but it's a page, in my PDF it's 18 and 19. I'm just trying to find them. Sorry.
That's fine. We'll get to those two. What I need you to explain is that...
Sorry to interrupt you. The one on page 400, Commissioner Spees, is it one of the two that you were referring to? 399 and 400. They seem to be the two that were not signed by Piri.
That's correct, Commissioner. So in my in the document that came from Goobies 85, it's one document with 43 pages, and page 18 and 19 is then page 399 and page 400, which has been signed off by Dr. K.E. Marislava. Yeah. The rest is Inspector Piri that have signed it off. And as I stated, is that they sent this back to me to say that, but we had written permission to proceed with it. And when they sent this to me and I looked at it, I replied back to them to say, but in any case, your contract ends the 30th. So stop the services, even if you had this and that. I didn't say anything further to them about this. What I then did is, this is the first time that us and even the department, I even spoke to Deputy Commissioner Boles about it, none of us knew that these letters were issued. And I looked at these letters, and Inspector Perry, in terms of command and control, in our ranking structure, if you go from the bottom up, you have a constable, sergeant, inspector, then a superintendent, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier, which is the director level, and the deputy chief level. Inspector Perry, in my mind, and at that moment in time, is way too low to authorize any expenditure or even to deploy. According to my understanding of the SLA and the award letters, it should have been Director Malachi that did this. So I then immediately, when I got this letter, I forwarded this whole package, this whole email, to GAR, which is our Group Audit and Risk Department, Mr. Mafamane Baloy. And I said to him, can you please investigate this urgently? It looks like it is either fraudulently issued or it's incorrectly issued, and that. Mr. Baloy then responded to me about a week later, and he stated to me that there's enough evidence against Inspector Perry that we can start and proceed with consequence management against him. And the moment I received that mail...
Commissioner Spees,
sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think we just one step ahead. I suppose the question is, Inspector Perry, could he issue those instructions under the authority of Mr. Malachi? Is it possible?
Inspector Perry has been assigned, he's a Metro Police officer that's been assigned to the APSS, the Asset Protection Security Services, as a regional supervisor. And in that turn, he reports as a regional supervisor, he reports to then Senior Superintendent Marislaba, who's now a Colonel Marislaba. But he reported to Colonel Marislaba, Colonel Mashlangu, Reginald Mashlangu, and to Director Malachi. So that is the direct line of command between them. And as I stated already, Inspector Perry should not have at all the authority to deploy this. If he deployed it, it's either under the direct instruction of Director Malachi, who was in any case wrong, because it should have been Director Malachi who issued the instruction.
Before we go to the steps that you took, Commissioner Spees, can you just explain to the Commission? Remember, we have a situation here where at least the Commission knows at the back that there are conversations between Sergeant Nkosi, Mr. Gareth Munisi, and Umashi Dlamini. That we know between January and February. And now we have purchase orders that were also reflective of February transactions that were loaded up. And then thirdly, we have a list that was attached to an email to you by Mr. Umashi Dlamini listing the allocation of ad hoc work and specifically dealing with January and February. And now to add to that, there is this document, okay, provided to you that seems to suggest to us, at least when I look at it, its allocation of work for at least from page 382, starting with January 2025, albeit we might have issues as to who issued those instructions, whether Perry would have had the necessary authority to do so. But when you put all of those four factors together, can you tell us if do you want to comment on that? Perhaps that's the best way to give you an opportunity to comment.
If I base it on the dates that I received, obviously this is speaking in hindsight because I only received this on the 26th of June. But the purchase orders that I now know was all created in March 6, but the deployment letters was already created in 14 January. It's completely wrong way around. Normally there would have been, the correct procedure would have been, there would have been a risk assessment, there would then have been a deployment with a purchase order to say we need to deploy extra people, a purchase order would be generated, and then the deployment letter will follow. It wouldn't be the other way around. It's as if this was created on 14 January already, and then in March, here by the 6th of 4th, 5th, 6th March, suddenly a large amount of purchase orders was created to align with these letters that was then issued on 14 January already. And we discovered it then on 26 June when it was sent back to us to say, but we have written permission to do this. It's not that we have not written permission. But it must also be stated that Inspector Perry, and I've stated many times, he's at the inspector level with zero authority to deploy. His function as a regional supervisor, monitoring the guards and monitoring that the function is actually done. He doesn't have deployment authority at all.
Just to be sure about what you're saying in your explanation, the letter, the one letter is dated the 14th of January 2025. That's the one at page 382. And I'm just using it as an example, the date. It's the 14th of January 2025. You say the purchase order fits in where in terms of date? Does it come after this kind of letter or does it come before this kind of letter?
The purchase order was created after this letter on 6th of March.
No, we know that. We know as a fact that it was created on the 6th of March. What I'm asking is the sequence of dates. Is that how it works? That a
No.
purchase order comes after this kind of deployment letter, or is it the other way around?
It is the other way around.
Okay.
You must first do the risk assessment. Now in the process as well, you must first do the risk assessment. After the risk assessment, if it is then necessary to deploy, there will then be a purchase order created for that deployment, and then the deployment will take place.
Okay, thank you.
Then,
These deployment letters, if you just look at the one on page 420, they don't say for how long the deployment is. So you are just deployed to a site with effect from they give a date and time. But then they don't say, for example, that it's going to be a month or it's going to be for 2 months. So it's an open-ended deployment until it is withdrawn.
Correct, Commissioner. Which is not correct.
For ad hoc services, that is improper because
That's-
you're effectively giving an evergreen mandate if you don't put an end date to it.
That is correct, Commissioner. That is why initially when I stated as well as ad hoc services is an emergency deployment for a specific reason, for a specific period. Ad hoc services is not a open-ended and off we go. So this process is definitely wrong.
I'm indebted, Commissioner Khumalo. Commissioner Spees, you were then engaging the Commission on the steps that you then took, having discovered or received the email from Goobies with the annexures, and you deal with that at paragraph 51 or 50 to 50, let's take it to 52 of your statement.
That is correct, Commissioners. I obviously, as I already stated, I sent this email plus all the attachments. I've sent it to Mr. Mafamani Baloyi for investigation. As I already stated, Director Malachi was appointed as the project manager, and he had to deal with all aspects of this tender, and an inspector does not have the authority to deploy or incur any cost on behalf of the city. Mr. Baloyi has replied to me later that stated he believes there's enough evidence that consequence management can be initiated, and I then forwarded his email plus all the evidence to Brigadier Minnar. He's the head of our internal affairs within the Metro Police, with a request for it to be investigated and then consequence management to be instituted. Brigadier Minnar appointed a Freddie Chauke from the internal affairs section to do the investigation. And then at a much later stage, about a month later, Mr. Chauke approached me informally and said to me that he cannot conclude this investigation. He has done a lot of legwork, but he couldn't conclude it as it's extremely technical. He also cannot obtain internal evidence and more evidentiary proof. It's one of the challenges we have as a Metro Police Department, is that when it becomes obvious that it's criminal, it becomes a criminal matter, and we don't have criminal investigative powers, and no one in the city will allow us to actually go and scratch for information and get it, because some of these, you need to get the real information. And he then said to me, what should he do with this investigation, because he came to a dead end. I suggested to him that he write a closeout report on the investigation to his Brigadier Minnar and his Deputy Chief, because it's in internal affairs, it falls under Commissioner Umasi Dlamini. That's where the section resides. So I suggested to him that he write a closeout report, where whatever he's saying to me now is that he stated in his closeout report, and he request and recommend that the report be referred back to Group Audit Risk, that they appoint a forensic company, so that it could be forensically properly investigated. At the same time when this happened, he then went out, and I then reported the matter to the Hawks, Colonel Livian Maseko, which is the head of Pretoria Hawks. I reported it to him to say, we've got a criminal matter here, which to me looks more and more criminal, and it's not now just an administrative problem anymore. And our internal affairs, we cannot investigate it further. It's now going to be referred to a forensic audit. Can you please, from the Hawks' perspective, also investigate this matter? And then when we get to paragraph 52, this only came to my knowledge last week on the 10th of March, is that I was under the impression that the report was closed out, it was sent to GAR for investigation, and that a forensic company has been appointed. Because during this period, in the last 2-3 months, forensic auditors and forensic companies did approach me to get information and take statements from me regarding this process. So my impression was that this report is actually the one that they're busy investigating. But then on the 10th of March, Brigadier Minnar forwarded an email to me when he said to me, sorry DC, I didn't originally CC'd you, because on the 30th of July, Brigadier Minnar sent the report that the investigator Freddie Chauke has done together with his recommendations. Brigadier Minnar sent it to Deputy Commissioner Dlamini to say to him, DC, here's our report, with a recommendation that it be forwarded through the Chief's office to GAR. It got stuck there, it never went further than that. And on the 10th of March, when I started to query and to say, actually I started the week before, because the forensic investigators were with me. And I mentioned then this report, and they're like, no, but we investigate the same matter from another avenue. It's not from that report. And when I went back to Brigadier Minnar, he sent his email to me to say, no, here's a report. I have sent it to my Deputy Chief. I omitted to include you in the original one. And then I said to him, can you please make sure that it immediately get to GAR, because it's critical for the current investigation. And I was then informed by the Chief of Police the very next morning when we discussed it. She said, no, she's already signed off on the report. It is with Group Audit now at the moment.
Commissioner, should that date not be 2026, the 10 March?
Sorry, Commissioner. I did correct it last night, but it is 2026. It was last week, Monday.
Thank you, Commissioner Khumalo. Perhaps while we are there, can we then go to this investigative report that will appear on file 4, the small file, and that will be page 993. Did you find it, Commissioner Spees?
Yes.
Thank you. For the record, what is that document?
This is the report that was then sent to me on the original email on 10th of March 2026, but it's the report that Brigadier Minnar has then submitted, and it's dated 29 July 25, but it was attached to the email of 30 July 2025 to Commissioner Dlamini.
Could you please, for the record, read the subject matter of that report in the introduction?
The subject matter was the Metro Police Inspector issuing written instruction to deploy ad-hoc guards beyond his mandate. And the letter then, in the introduction portion, it specifically stated that on 27 June, this directorate received allegations to investigate against Inspector Piri for issuing written instructions to Gubi's 85 security solution to deploy ad-hoc guards, which is way beyond his mandate.
And then, unless the chairperson wants you to read the entire report, I would direct you to...
Please not.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would then direct you to page 996, where we deal with the challenges. And then after that, the conclusion of that report.
Under point 4 challenges, the investigation is unable to test the allegation against 22 companies to establish whether Inspector Piri issued a written instruction to all the service providers to deploy ad hoc guards. And as noted, we only have this file from Gubi's coming back to us to say, no, but we have, here is the 43 list. He also stated then unable to interview Director Malachi. The reason was Director Malachi has then already been suspended from our service, and he's unable to conduct background check on members of Gubi's 85 solution and the City of Tshwane officials. We don't have access to make a link there for it, and we're unable to interview or obtain statements from Inspector Piri. He refused, and he couldn't get hold of him at all to actually do this. And he could also not confirm with SAPS if there were any cases against the city by Gubi's 85 solution for work done or any litigations. And he was also unable to source the standard operating procedure for compliance purposes, and he was unable to source full financial records for the content of this memo. And then he made the conclusion, which is aligned to what I say to say, but the allegations submitted have substance and indicate a possible crime of fraud and corruption. However, a thorough forensic investigation would be more suitable to indicate cost to the municipality and all the employees involved of misconduct, because at that stage, even though it shows towards Piri, it could be the whole group that is involved in this, which we didn't know. And obviously we didn't know the WhatsApps and the underground stream that was going on. The annexures, he attached everything that I've testified to so far, the emails, the service level agreements between it. And then he recommended that the Chief of Police and DC Spees take cognizance of the content of this memo, that the allegations be referred to Group Audit and Risk for further investigation, and that he says then that if point 2 is not possible, an external audit be requested for the content of this memo, and that the cost implication for the content cannot be determined but will be an exuberant amount. Today, with hindsight, we know it's
I
massive.
don't understand why Piri cannot be instructed to give a statement. I really don't understand. Who is Piri's supervisor? Who does he report to?
Commissioner, it's not in my section. He's luckily been promoted out of my section to regional policing. But since Friday, we've been trying to get hold of him. He's been given instructions. His direct supervisor has been given instruction that he must report Monday morning past 10 o'clock at the office. He has failed to do so. So disciplinary steps and consequence management is being introduced again for that as well. So we are trying to get hold of him, but we are starting with consequence management, not us, but the department and his regional divisional head.
Yeah, but it must not look like Tshwane is only doing that because it is now appearing before the commission. I mean, if these things are from 2025, I don't understand why the challenges that are listed here, unable to interview Malachi if he's suspended, I understand that. But unable to interview and obtain a statement from Inspector Piri, that I don't understand. Why could that not be done before this report was finalized?
Commissioner, I cannot answer to that. I know that this report was concluded on the email. It was already sent on the 29th of July. It was done by Internal Affairs. And on the 30th of July, it was sent to the Deputy Chief Dlamini for his office. In that short period between when I gave the instruction for the investigation to the end of that month, that investigation, the investigator, Chowki, is the only one that can really answer why he couldn't get hold of him. I do not know the reason why he couldn't get hold of him. And I also didn't know this report at all until last week, the 10th, to say, but where is that report? Is it with Gar, and what is Gar's outcome from this? And that's when Brigadier Minnar sent it to me to say, no, it was sent to his Deputy Chief Dlamini, and he thought it was already sent through to Gar close to a year later.
Yeah, because now there must be a complex forensic investigation that cost the city a lot of money. I mean, I don't understand that.
There is already a forensic investigation happening.
Yeah, but
Commissioner Spees, then it's your testimony that this report, perhaps can we just, it will be fair to say that this report, at least it was delayed on the desk or doorstep of Mr. Umashi Dlamini, as far as you are informed.
Correct. It was sent, in terms as per the email thread, it was sent on the 30th of July by Brigadier Minnar to Commissioner Dlamini, and then nothing further happened with it until last week when it was started to be inquired again because of the forensic investigation that's ongoing.
Chair, perhaps safe to point out that when the witness was dealing with under challenges 4, where they say that the city was unable to conduct a background check on members of Goodies Solutions and City Tshwane officials to establish any relationships. We have done that, and we'll deal with that in the fullness of time. And then, Commissioner...
Are we to make anything of the fact that this is not signed, or nothing turns on that? Or maybe there is a signed copy somewhere? Or,
Let's put that to the Commissioner Spees.
Commissioner, it was the email that was sent to me that was originally sent on 30 July. This email was just forwarded to me as that, so I don't have the signed copy. But I have been informed by Commissioner Farah that Brigadier Minnar and she signed off on it, and the signed version is with Gar. So I don't have sight of the signed version, but there's definitely a signed version that has been sent off.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose to complete that, then when Chief of Police comes, Farah, we can put that to her to complete to round off the point. Commissioner Spees, you had mentioned the involvement of the Hawks, and you deal with that at paragraph 53. Can you just take the Commission through that?
This 100% matter I've provided to Colonel Livian Maseko from the Hawks to say that it looks like inside the investigation is not going well inside. Can you please investigate it as well? Colonel Maseko then informed me at that same time when I handed him all the evidence to say investigate it, he stated to me that, but from the Hawks themselves, they were already investigating Goobies because there was an anonymous informant and reporter who reported to them what we call the concept of ghost billing. It will be where the company is supposed to deploy 5 or 6 guards per shift, but they only deploy 1 or none. And then they will invoice the 5 or 6 guards and they will be paid accordingly. And the Hawks were then already investigating the specific portion of Goobies 85, and they said they will add this to their investigation. I must, however, note that to date, obviously the police doesn't have to take me into their confidence, but the investigation is still ongoing. I haven't received any feedback on that investigation.